us right, another wrong. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. Oh, and if someone should ask us where we're off and bound today, we will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. We will tell them building bridges and be off and on.
We will tell them building bridges and be off and on our way. That was Bill Staines with the Bridges song. Welcome to Bridges Programming. This is Wednesday World Call-In, and we are here with you again for about an hour. We're going to try to get as much in an hour as we can. So you're more than welcome to call us on Hangouts on air and on Skype. We have with us today Susan.
Have the music ready.
We have with us today Susan Comont and Dennis Carius, and we'd like to figure out what we're doing for the rest of the programming. And we had an idea. Someone called us last night. And when they called us, they said, I said, what are we going to do a program on? They said, well, how about the presidential campaign? And well, I'm trying to do something here, which is a mistake.
Well, can you do it later?
And
go
say
ahead. What you're saying?
Well, anyway, we decided to talk about what difference would it make who gets elected. And Dennis is going to talk about that a little bit. And Dennis, what do you think? And by the way, anybody can call in, but what do you think, Dennis? Does it matter who we elect?
Well, that's a good question, Jeff. Does it matter who we elect? I would, when I was growing up, I always said yes. It matters very much who we elect. But if we ever had a dysfunctional government that needs reform, then it's not your politicians that are in charge. It's the people who are buying and paying for your politicians. If they're bought and paid for, then the politicians are not doing what we want them to do. I mean, 99.9% of us. The upper 0.1% might be telling them what to do, or else they can't run for re-election.
Well, try to re-explain that. I don't understand.
Well, the cost of running for election is so high. Can you imagine if you wanted to run for president, how many millions and millions of dollars it would cost you? So,
you say it's $1 billion now.
If you can talk a little louder, Dennis, I for some reason or other, you're not coming in very loud.
They say it's going to cost $1 billion to run for president at this cycle.
That's $1,000 million.
So what you're saying is you have a dysfunctional government, and I'm saying to you we have a dysfunctional economic system. But what I'm coming to another conclusion, that we have dysfunctional people. And most people I know complain about dysfunctional governments and dysfunctional, and they complain a lot. When I talk to them, they tell me what they're going to do, like they're going to show up to do a program, or they want to do more programming, or they're going to write a book. I knock on the door and I give them like help to do it, like a computer, or I give them some support of some type, and then I go to see them, and they're watching a soap opera. And they're not out of bed yet. Or the people who are supposed to, let's say, show up for a show, 5 minutes or a half hour before the program, I didn't get enough sleep. And there's 1,000 excuses. So I think we have a problem with a dysfunctional population. Not so much in government, but a dysfunctional population. And then you have people who are very functional, but they want to make more money. And you call those people greedy.
We mean that's where the functional people
the functional people have gone.
Are going to
They're going to make more money and let the other people be their slaves.
Well, that's how the population has divided itself.
So
right?
That's what I see. So what do you think about what do you think about that?
Show with Jeff and Susan. I love doing the show because we're getting the truth out. And
well, I don't know about the
just to
truth,
answer
Jeff.
your
Nobody
question,
has the
I want to
truth.
answer your question, Jeff, okay? Just to answer the question is that if that upper, let's just say upper 1% can buy and pay for all these politicians, not only can they do that, but even mainstream media, they can, you know, they can buy and pay for mainstream media. So we can be brainwashed when we turn on that, you know, mainstream media and they tell us how great things are going, how functional things are, no need for reform. That explains what you're saying, Jeff, that there's people in this country that say there is nothing wrong because that's what they're told by mainstream media.
But
that's not true.
But if we ask them to help do something about it, then all they're doing is they're saying, yes, I'll do something about it. And the next day they're watching Captain Kangaroo on television. They're not, they're smoking cigarettes and watching Captain Kangaroo.
You're saying that people who don't really want to do anything, they'll say they do, but then they do, you know, they pretty much don't follow through.
They don't follow through.
Right.
And it's very frustrating because you count on people to make a phone call or to show up when they're supposed to show up, or at least follow through with what they can do in their own time. And they don't follow through, and then they complain and complain about how bad things are, but they don't do anything about it. They won't even spend 10, 15 minutes a day. They'd rather watch a soap opera. I mean, that's my problem.
So what do you think has caused this kind of lethargy?
It's amazing to me.
Do you think it's because they don't feel that anything that they do could possibly make a difference? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Dennis, why do you think the person, like there's a person we both know, and he says he'll be there or do something, and he doesn't show up? Well, what do you think creates that problem? And he's a smart person. He's not stupid, right?
Oh, all these people are very smart. Yeah.
Well, is he elderly?
Not that elderly.
Okay.
Well, you feel that if he was very elderly, this would make a difference?
For some reason, Dennis is coming through very low.
Well, I don't know.
All right, Dennis can yell if you want.
No, I can hear Dennis.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the meter.
Oh, okay, but I can hear him. Okay.
Say a few words, Dennis.
10, 9, 8,
That's
7,
coming up halfway.
You're coming up. See, when you talk and I talk.
Yes, yes.
But Dennis is coming in much lower.
I think that's because he's on the phone.
No, there's a way. There's a way I can fix that.
Well, anyway, he's audible.
Okay. Well, anyway, I have a problem with the way our system is working because, and I'm slowly
You mean
coming
our
to
government?
our whole economic system is
our
working,
economics?
which is controlling our economic, we have a functioning economic system that keeps the big guys in office. And then we have people who want to change that, but they're not willing to do anything about it. They think by voting someone in, like if Hillary Clinton is going to be the candidate for the Democratic Party, and let's say Jeb Bush is going to be the candidate for the Republican Party, it's not going to change anything because they're not talking about anything of any value as far as how do we benefit humanity. Are we going to keep on having wars the same way? Are we keep on having drones the same way? Are we going to have the same old system? Are we going to want to punish, let's say, the Al-Qaeda? Are we going to keep a war on terrorism? Or are we going to start thinking about why these problems are occurring and try to fix the problems?
Yeah.
Dennis?
That's interesting, Jeff, because would we want to reform things if they were dysfunctional? It reminds me of that man who came over here in 1830, Alexis de Tocqueville, and he said this, you know, we don't have socialism here. We have something called capitalism. And he says, you've got a great constitution and a great Bill of Rights, but it's only going to last until the very, very rich people, you know, can, you know, do away with all this and get the 99% of us bought and paid for.
Well, so he's right. Now what are you going to do about it, though?
I think we should reform things. Now,
how are you going to do that?
Well, did you ever hear of something called campaign finance reform?
Okay, we have that, the McCain-Feingold Act. They put that into effect, and when they put that into effect, it made it worse.
Well, that's
it didn't
because
really
politicians
function.
are not doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Well, who's to say which is the right way?
I mean, that's what they're supposed to do but our congressmen are supposed to get it right, but they're not getting it right.
Who's to say what's the right way? If they can, the reason why they're not getting it right is because they don't want to change anything. Not that they can't, they don't want to. Why don't they want to? Because
but they'll make a show of changing it, you know,
right.
Exactly. And is that feeding into the rest of the population, that kind of behavior, that you make a show of really caring about doing something to change things, but you know, in the end, you really are just want the status quo to continue because for whatever reasons it's more comfortable, it's, you know, more profitable or whatever. It's what you know.
Right.
I think that the attitudes that are established by what we consider authority figures are often that's what trickles down, not the wealth that everybody's generating, the greater population. That doesn't trickle down, but the attitudes trickle down. You know, like that you can get ahead by being dishonest, that you can you know, say one thing and do another. You know, these things work within a economic system that is based solely on profit gathering and making scarce essential things so that more profit can be gathered, you know, and prices can go up. And any kind of behavior is condoned by our economics. It is not an economics that has any regard for people, you know, in general, for humanity. So but what's happening is all the attitudes that help the people that are functioning at high levels in this economy and getting most of the value out of it, those attitudes are the things that are trickling into the rest of the population, I believe, and creating a situation where you have so much dishonesty, so much lying, so much lethargy, and, you know, as a result, because you can't, you know, people who use these kind of tactics at the higher levels, it works for them because they're manipulating the rest of the population. They're not manipulating each other very much because, you know, they kind of have
they're the communists.
Yeah, they kind of have an agreement with each other not to the elites to mess up each other's income streams, but they will use the rest of the population, which is the rest of us.
And that's the slaves, and that's
unfortunately, the rest of us pick up their attitudes, but they don't do us any good at all at the level that we have our functioning. Because when you, that disrupts the rest of the population, because then they can't cooperate, they can't get together and do, you know, good, positive projects, because they've been trained, you know, not to be candid about their motives. They've been, but this lack of, you know, real honesty in their dealings with other people is what's separating all these, you know, the most of us from each other. And this is also a very useful thing for elites, because they can then manipulate huge populations, because those populations can't get together and do anything positive to their own benefit, because they won't cooperate with each other, they won't collaborate. They feel that everyone has to be on their own, you know, make it on their own. Rugged individualism is another type of misnomer that's thrown around. There's no, you know, it doesn't have to do with individuality, that statement. It has to do more today, when you interpret it, with the inability of people in general to work together. The elites, they work together toward each other's benefit by, you know, as I said, not getting in the way of each other's income streams, collaborating to make things better for both parties. But as far as their dealings with the rest of the population, that's where things break down pretty quickly, and there is no humanitarian effort, that is part of our economics.
Yeah,
as it's practiced.
I want to do, so we just got an email and something about climate change, but I don't want to read that right now. I just want to to do some housekeeping here. This program is a humanitarian station. We try to give everybody a voice to say what's on their mind. We don't necessarily agree or disagree. We just say that if you have something to say, we want you to have a voice. We have 10 openings now for new programmers, and we're going to be putting on everything on Google Hangouts and Bridges programming website, which will be streamed on about 20 different streaming venues, and we're also going to do our own streaming for humanity, for anything that belongs to humanity. We do, this is a Wednesday show, we call it Wednesday World Call-In. It's brought to you by the HREM.org, which is a human renewable energy measure. And
okay, there goes our phone.
and I'm going to have to just turn this one off.
Okay, Dennis, we got the podium here. Do you have any, well, Jeff was turning off the phone. Do you have any comments? What do you think? What do you think about what I was saying about the trickling down of bad ideas? That people.
I'm not surprised. Well, Susan, I think the word I always use that's causing the problem is GREED, greed, because I understand if a baby hasn't eaten in 3 days, wants food.
Well, do you think
that's greedy?
Do you think that the greed, the idea of greed, is trickling down through the 99%, and that's also a part of the reason why people can't cooperate with each other on, effectively with. I mean, they're saying to themselves, well, first I have to get as much as I can, and for some people, there's never an end to that. It's like an addiction, I think, and so they never stop accumulating what they think they need. But then, so if someone comes to you with a project that involves everyone being honest to each other and cooperating and trying to put forward a project that might be helpful. Oh, what are we getting back to? Okay. Great. Do you see where I'm going with what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So distracted
the word greed, in my opinion, is nothing more than an emotion, and it's also subjective. My greed and your greed and someone else's greed is totally subjective. How much do you want? How many stocks and bonds do you want to buy? How much do you want to get for nothing? That's the point I'm making.
Well, that's the attitude that I think is trickling down from the elites.
And
it's a very disorganizing. I haven't really been able to make this point yet because neither of you have picked it up. And it's my fault. I'm not saying it right. What I'm saying is, and if we can just get this one point out in this program, that would be nice. That you've got what people are considering. This is the propaganda. When they see people who are, quote, successful in the economics as it's practiced today, and they're very, very wealthy, they have lifestyles that everybody thinks they would like to have, they're envious, and they perceive these lifestyles from the TV programs they watch, the movies they watch. I mean, there's always the assumption in almost every film or TV series that you look at that the people that are acting in it are somehow in the upper middle class or upper echelons of society. I mean, there are a lot.
They're always looking very well.
They're always living very, very well. They have all the options are in front of them that, we imagine, the American dream and all this, another thing that is very much a propaganda idea. But we went in, anyway, I won't talk about that right now. But what I'm trying to say is, there is this perception these people, and how have they gotten there? Well, then people observe, and they see how they behave with each other. They find that, the people at the very, very top, they hear, okay, they're ruthless, they're scrupulous, they anything to make money. They'll even hire hitmen to take out their opponents. So these kind of attitudes, and just at the other level, that it's appropriate under these circumstances, if you are going to be a good capitalist, to lie, to cheat, to steal. All these things are condoned. Not up front. It's all kind of understood. This is and it's understood in a sly way. It's like you're asked to admire their outlaw, quote unquote, sort of attitude, which is not an outlaw attitude at all. It's a very sneaky, underhanded kind of behavior that this it all blends in with people's desire to the endless frontier and cowboys and the pirates and all these
and the 1%,
right, and it all kind of blends into some kind of mythology that sort of becomes the ideal to imitate. And so those attitudes drift down through the population, down, up, whatever, out. They drift out into the general population, and people adopt them because they think, well, if I behave this way, I can become like that person who has everything that I think I want and everything that society says I should try to get. And so if I behave this way, and with people that I know and interact this way, and I believe these things that I am being propagandized with, I will someday be an elite, and that's the biggest attainment to have, and that's where I want to be. And these people are happy, and this, you see where I'm going with that?
Yes, I'm just trying to.
And it's an attitude that is drifting into the population that doesn't serve the general population at all. Do you see what I'm saying?
I was trying to comment on that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to say.
Comment on that.
Go ahead.
But I couldn't. If you, let's suppose you are the president of ExxonMobil, and you decided that you're going to drill for oil all over the world, and you even tell people, we're going to drill here, we're going to drill there.
Just try and stop me.
You can't stop me, and I'm going to pollute,
I have more
and
money.
I'm going to poison, and I'm going to frack, and I'm going to do all these things, and we're going to make a lot of money.
And they smile while they tell you this.
And they're going to make a lot.
And they say, just try and stop me. Well, Ken, I have to help you.
Yeah,
right,
I want to bring this out.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, you're going to be applauded because you just made a fortune for your company.
That's the highest thing you can do.
And you're making a fortune for yourself.
And that's the highest thing you can do.
Right. But you've killed many people.
That people ignore completely.
Totally, it doesn't matter.
So what's wrong with this picture?
The picture is the system is not set up. And by the way, once you have that money, you can then put money into different campaigns. So if you want a president and he needs $1 billion.
Does it matter who's elected? When you know how they were elected and who's behind them, it's not going to have any benefit to the general population.
How does Hillary Clinton get $1 billion? How does Jeb Bush get $1 billion? They don't get it from the average person who is supposed to be represented.
Right.
They're getting it from the very wealthy people who don't care how many average people they kill or put into poverty. And that's the problem. And that's why again, I'm going to go back to before I was rudely interrupted. The renewtheearth.org is by the phone. By the phone. And then we have renewtheearth.org. And then we have Bridges Programming, which we try to get this message out. And it's across our screen now. If you're watching our screen, you'll see the websites on the screen.
It's not like it's an easy thing to do programming, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of research. Today we're doing this much more, you were not doing as much research for this one because we, sometimes, you have interruptions that break up the schedule and you can't do as much research as you'd like to do for each program. But
there's a problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that we're all caught up in the United States and probably the world on who's going to run for president. It's like a frenzy. It's like a feeding frenzy.
Well, it's starting now, yeah.
And everybody's
slowly
looking at,
building.
we're gonna, we got to have a woman in for president, or we got to have we got to change the system, but we have to have campaign finance before. It's a frenzy, but we're not going to change anything. It's going to be just a frenzy, and nothing will change until we get to something called a measurement for humanity. And
Survival
of humanity
and life in general.
And that's where we have to focus, and that's why
what's needed.
That's why we do
first.
the programming here, and we do it to try to promote a simple concept that we need a start point for all humanity, and we call that the Human Renewable Energy Measure, the HREM.org. So please try to understand that, and I really, really hope that people who hear these programs go to the trouble of teaching yourself about something. Go to Zeitgeist Moving Forward. Go to our website, thehrem.org. Go to Money as Debt to learn where these things come from.
How money works.
So because most people don't understand what's going on. They just know there's something wrong. So please don't hesitate to start thinking, get away from the damn soap operas and go to something like Zeitgeist Moving Forward. Spend the time to learn about it. Look where money comes from. Don't just say we need reform. We got to reform government. You got to reform the economic system. The government is controlled by it. And the individual person is dysfunctional. That's the problem I see with most of the society around us. Very few people want to think. They think there's nothing they can do about this, so therefore they watch television or go to a baseball game or a football game or listen to classical music. They don't care. They can't conceive that there's a way of changing this system because the system's been around since before 200-300 years BC. So that's over that's well over 2,000 years ago, and possibly even longer, where the pirates started in. And the religious beliefs, which started over 5,000 years ago. So we have a history of belief system that people can't seem to break. But I think there's a way to break it, just like we learned about, an obvious thing called gravity. And when we learned about the obvious thing called gravity, we named it, and that was just 400 years ago. And I'm saying we need to go now to another obvious thing that we all know there's something wrong. Dennis is calling it a dysfunctional government. Some people call it dysfunctional people. Some people say, well, it just can't be fixed. That's the way life is. That's human nature. Well, it's not that way.
Well, we're all influenced by the systems in which we're compelled to live. And right now, the dominant system is the economics that we live in. And it's distorting human behavior. It's not that these tendencies are part of humanity, but many of the most humane and excellent qualities of humans are being suppressed because these other, less desirable qualities like lying and cheating and stealing are being encouraged by economics. I mean, it's sad. It's a very sad thing to see.
And it's very frustrating too.
Yes, very frustrating to get people to, and it's making it almost impossible for people to collaborate with each other. In fact, it may have already made it impossible for people
we don't
to
know.
collaborate with
We
each
just
other.
figure we keep on. If we do a little, if we keep on planting seeds, maybe a younger generation
We're
will pick
hoping,
this up.
that this technology where you can
Well,
speak through the internet, and hopefully there'll be so few people that will listen to part of what we're saying and take it to the next level. I mean, it just is a matter of thinking. It's not anything any more complicated than that. I did do a little research just to bring this to a more positive.
Before you do that, I want to have you know that the Pope is saying pretty much the same thing we're saying now, and this is 2014. I just got an email from another group that, 2015. I just got an email from somebody now, I forgot the name, but I didn't want to read it, but it's about climate change. The problem is, the reason why we have a problem with climate change is because economically, you want to make more money, so the more you pollute, the more money you may be able to make. But it's totally bogus, because if you knock out our climate, you knock out our
ability to
species.
survive.
Right. So this is insanity.
This is definitely not a good direction to be going in for humanity in general. And unfortunately, most of the people on the planet didn't make this decision to do what's happening now. It's all being led by a very small group of individuals that are, benefiting the most from the way that economics is practiced today. And capitalism it was always predicted that the result of capitalism was going to be that most of the value that's generated by the general population is going to be concentrated in the hands of a few, and that's what's happened. And the direction that those few people are going is taking everyone else with it. It's not going to be
down the drain like a
sustainable.
vortex.
It's not going to be sustainable.
Right.
It's going to destroy us all. It's very important to think differently than the powerful forces of trickle-down mentality, and I think that's even more disturbing and destructive than most other things that are affecting us, because this kind of trickle-down mentality that takes that encourages people to behave like the elites simply because they aspire to be one someday is damaging all of our abilities to cooperate with each other and to make things better for everyone.
And unfortunately, it requires, in this society, I have a lot of friends of mine who are very wealthy people, and they're just so busy doing what they do, they don't even want to think about how we help anyone. You get people like Gates or Soros or the and I'm going to try to be both sides, or the Koch family. They feel that what they're doing is the best they can do to help humanity. I believe they honestly
But
believe
they're
that.
coming from a very elite viewpoint.
Exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
limited.
Yeah, well, we had a guest here last night, and she was talking about how everyone does stuff for nothing and helps people out in an emergency. Well, that's not the point. The point is not doing it for nothing. Every human being has to work together with all of humanity to stop the wars, stop killing people, stop poisoning the water, the earth, and the air. But the most important thing is to change the economic system so it doesn't do that. The reason why we're killing people and poisoning the water, the earth, and the air is because of the economic system. And then we take that, the way the system's working now, and they control the politics, so it looks like they're not functioning well. But the reality is it's functioning very well within the economic framework. So the economic framework is the problem.
It's much too constricting, and it's creating a distorted, it's emphasizing some of our worst traits instead of
the best
bringing
trades.
out some of our best
Now,
trades.
Dennis, let me ask you a question. I know you find it interesting, but don't you see about the way the economic system is controlling everything?
Well, yes, and really the solution is there. But I read something very interesting. It says that Big Oil says we can go to solar power when they learn how to put a meter on the sun. So really, we can solve the problem right now. If you look at all those roofs out there, all those roofs, if we had solar panels on all these roofs, you never have to put any more money in after you put those solar panels up there, and you collect so much energy, you would not have to be burning that oil, what's coming out of that exhaust pipe. Nobody wants to breathe that in. It's going in the atmosphere. It is causing climate change, global warming. It really is. But again, they're saying that Big Oil will only switch over to those solar panels when they can put a meter on the sun.
Well, even if we switched over to all solar, Dennis,
right.
and we have to get the natural resources to build those solar panels. Let's say we need the
Right.
silicon, we need
Right.
the materials to build the solar panels. Or are we going to still kill people for their natural resources?
Well, not anything like we are right now, because we're already building solar panels.
Okay, but let me ask you the question. When you say not anything like we are right now, does that mean it's okay to kill less people? Or if you're the one person who's being killed or poisoned because of the way our economic system's working so we can get the solar panels. Let's suppose we can get all the solar panels we want, and we printed up enough money to do it, and we even stopped our military. We took our 47% of our 58% of our budget, and we put it into solar panels, and we brought all our troops home. But because of the way our economic system works, we would still be killing people around the world to get the natural resources. So we still need the natural resources, and we would still be, maybe we wouldn't have the military there, but we'd be dropping drones to make sure we get our way to get, let's say, the cobalt out of
Central
Africa.
Africa.
Supposing we wanted to make sure we have enough energy to build the, to make the heat, to build the glass panels for the solar. So we're still going to need oil or natural gas or something to make the heat for the glass, because
so you see the huge industry that might build up around that
yes.
to be almost as bad as what we already have. I mean, are you
yes,
saying that?
I'm saying it's still going to be detrimental, maybe not as detrimental as it is right now, but if you're one of the kids or one of the parents or one of the relatives who have been killed by our economic system.
So what will make this process of going to a better energy source that isn't as polluting, less polluting? I mean, how do we resolve that?
How would you resolve it, Dennis? If we get your way, we're gonna close the military up and take out 58% of our tax dollar, and we're going to put the tax dollars into building solar panels and bring home our troops. But we're still killing people. So are you saying it's okay to kill less people because we don't?
No, I'm saying you should kill no people. We should do a show on this Sunday. On Sunday, if we do a show, we can talk about what we're told when we go to church. They say, "Love thy neighbor, thou shalt not kill." I agree, thou shalt not kill. All you have to do is set limits. You can put solar panels on your roof without killing anyone. You can do that.
How do we get the natural resource? How do we get the natural resources to do that?
The panels is what Jeff is saying.
So it might be just a little more expensive. Instead of taking a democratically elected leader out of that country in the Middle East and putting a dictator in over there and then provoking what they call terrorism, instead of doing that and killing people, then just maybe leave that leader in there who was democratically elected. The price might be a little higher because.
But how much, when you say higher, how much is that worth? How much is the price? Supposing I tell you it's $1 a watt to build a solar panel, which it's not, but let's say it is. And we're willing to pay $2 a watt, okay? You're following that, right?
So that people get better paid or
Right.
whatever.
But how much is the dollar worth?
I mean,
Well, that's a
they
whole
can
different
deflate the value
No,
of the
it's
dollar.
not. That's not a different topic. Because if you don't tell me what a dollar's worth, and you don't base it on humanity, it's a bogus thing, and you're back to the same problem again with the politicians that dictate what the dollar's worth. So you just went back in a circle and chased your tail because you don't know what a dollar is worth. So if you pay a little more, how much is a little more of something that you don't have a value for?
I'm just saying it's a different topic. Anybody listening to this show could take out their wallet, look in there, they'll see the $1 bill or a $5 or a $10 bill. They can answer your question. What
Right. So if I put you in New York City right now with a $10 bill and I tell you to go get a meal, you'll starve to death because all you can eat buffets in New York City are $20. So the dollar bill has no value in New York State. I mean, in New York City.
It's not consistent.
It's not
even
consistent.
within New York State.
Even in the state of New York, the value of that dollar is subjective.
It depends on where you are.
You can't buy an all-you-can-eat buffet for $1 or for $10 in New York. It's 15,
New York
20
City.
New York City. Now in Albany, you can get one for like $6. So how much is the dollar worth? You look in your wallet and say, suppose I only have $2 in my wallet.
Depends on where you're located.
How much is it worth? And that's subjective. There's no uniformity to that dollar. And I'm suggesting that without a measurement that's based on humanity, that dollar has no value whatsoever.
If it's not based on our ability to survive, it has no value, right?
So
and
if
it's not
say
based
you've got
on that.
solution.
Pardon me?
Okay.
And our economics is not based on human or life ability to survive.
That's why we're doing these programs, to promote the human renewable energy measurement. And if you look on your screen, I think my words correlate to the screen now.
Just by
It says
accident.
renewtheearth.org on your screen. That's a nonprofit group.
And it does, and on that site, it does talk about renewable energies and how they're, less damaging to the atmosphere. But as Jeff is saying, they too have to be built. They have to be made with high heat for the glass, and the various components have to be put together with labor, and there's a cost to all this. In natural resources and in human labor and intellect.
Dennis, what did you say?
I was just going to tell Jeff, you can do that, and without killing anyone, you can do it.
Well, how?
You don't have to. Just think of the cost of the solar panels. Once you pay for that price, then you don't have to put any more money into it.
I agree. I'm going to agree with you. I just want to ask you, how do we get the resources, not the money, the actual material to build all these solar panels? There's a physical cost to that, not a monetary cost to that. Then you need silicon. You need heat for glass. You need heat for the aluminum. You need copper wires. You need all the stuff to build this industry. And if you're hurt, when you take the stuff forget about the cost. If you're going to you wind up killing people to do this. And I'm suggesting that with a measurement based on humanity, then I'll agree with you. You won't have to kill anybody once you figure out the cost in humanitarian or in physical terms.
What you're saying is that the attitude that corporations take, no matter what it is they're building or selling to the rest of the population, is still going to be the same attitude within the context of our economics, that we can go in and take the natural resources any which way we can to make it happen. We can kill populations. We can remove them from the areas where we want to go in and get the natural resources. I mean, they're doing this for our cell phones now. They're getting, special, what it's cobalt that's needed for the cell phones, and they're removing populations from the areas where this kind of natural resource is, and getting getting what they need, and it's not the value from all this activity is not going back into the local area. They'll do token projects here and there to make it look like they're doing something good for the populations where they're working, and they're not. I mean, this is part of the lying and the snide behind the scenes, ha ha ha, this is, we all know what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. And it's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's the system, no matter, even if it's a good product, like solar panels, it's going to be done in the old way, the old-fashioned way, the old school way, which is lying, cheating, taking the natural resources from the under the ground, where people can't protect themselves, from this. There's all kinds of ways to displace populations. You start an artificial war between religious groups, and you disrupt the normality of the people that are living there, and then
Take their water away.
Then they have to. Most of them will leave because they don't want to get killed, so they'll start to emigrate out of the places where they live for generations, and then you've accomplished your objective. The corporation or the huge business that's building whatever it is, and it can be solar panels, it can be anything. Just because it's a good product doesn't mean it's going to be done within the context of our economics. It's going to be done the way that all the other products are built, and the access to the natural resources will be gotten the same way that we're doing it now, unless we change the emphasis of our economics from profit gathering to preserving human life and life on this planet. This has never been done. Our economics has never been about preserving human life.
Right.
It's never been about conserving natural resources or preserving the species on this planet. It's never been about that. And that is the problem, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's interesting. It is so ingrained in us to make money that it has nothing to do with how do we and we all know. Look, it's just like, when you train, Dennis, not to kill people. You know that? You know how we talk about that?
Yeah, like love thy neighbor, thou shalt not kill. Yeah.
Right. And then we send people to war.
Right.
And kill as many people as you can, and people come back with mixed emotions. You know what I'm talking about?
Cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, or they come back with some kind of a syndrome.
No, they come back with the totally mentally deranged from what they've had.
Well, that's the same exact thing as our economic system, because we all know that we're killing people in the name of making money, but we all know we shouldn't be killing people. So the reason our insanity as a species is so screwed up is because of the same mixed emotions or cognitive dissonance, that they still have the same problem. That's why we going to all these little cul-de-sac conspiracy theories. We're trying to figure out the problem, but the problem is really simple. We are killing people, and we know better as a species, in the name of making money, and we all want to make money because that's how we've been brought up. So we have this mixed emotion going on here.
And it's also the only way to survive.
Right.
Are you kidding? It's not just that you're brought up in it. We are coerced into this system. The moment you can work, that's what you've got to do.
I'm looking at our sign here that says bridgesprogramming.com, and then it's these same things that you see in the lottery things, and it says Human Renewable Energy Measure coming up now. And then these little dots that come in when they change the words, some of those dots I've noticed are built into the sign, dollar signs. And I couldn't believe it. It's built into the machinery. So it flashes dollar signs.
It's like a subliminal message.
It's like a subliminal message. Now, we didn't put that in there. And I'm looking at the sign now, and if you notice, every so often a dollar sign will pop up.
I mean, I think that works because we talk about economics.
Yes, but I'm just saying that I never noticed it in the sign.
Yeah.
So it's built into the programming. And that's what's built into the programming, our economic system.
I didn't know. I haven't been watching the sign. You are the one who
I'm
watches
I'm
the
looking
sign.
at the sign because it sort of reminds me to talk about the hrem.org and Bridges programming and Renew the Earth. And I also want to bring out that, please, I can't emphasize so strongly that you've got to look at money as debt, the zeitgeist moving forward. There are so many things to learn. I'm trying to give you a simple way to look at these sites so you understand, or try to understand, how screwed up our system is. They give you the problems. Very few of them give the solutions. But we think we need to evolve into a simple measurement.
You can't get just stuck on our problems.
Right. We got to make
because that's going to stop you from
moving
thinking
forward.
that there's something better that can be done. And I did want to read one thing from
Go ahead.
Mr. Fuller. I did have a chance to do some research, and I got this one quote out of Critical Path that we've been talking about for
That's
several
Bucky's
programs.
second book, Critical Path.
Well, no, his final book.
His final book.
Right. It was published in 1980. But in this, I didn't take down the whole quote, but here's part of it. Humans have always unknowingly affected all universe by every act and thought they articulate or even consider. Unselfish thinking on the part of humans does absolutely affect human destiny. That human mind is accomplishing, and in this way, human mind is accomplishing its designed evolutionary role, unquote. And that's the thing. Somehow, at this point in history, our minds are being stalled, or at least, frozen in place by our economics, because what the human mind is best at and is evolved to, is to keep thinking and considering, new ways to make things better in general, on this planet that we all share together.
On the spaceship that we're on.
And he's saying, Buckminster Fuller's saying that that unknowingly we will affect, by our thoughts and our generous actions, and he calls them unselfish thinking. Unselfish thinking on the part of humans does absolutely affect human destiny. And this is something that maybe we're not, don't have enough of right now, is the unselfish thinking. We have a lot of selfish thinking in the name of, you say, oh, you're an individual, you got to take care of yourself and your family or whatever. It only extends to your immediate family. And that means you're really an individual if you act,
you're not part of the collective.
Not part of the collective and stuff like that. But that's not a complete definition of individuality, and you can think about that and look those things up and see what dictionary meanings you subscribe to and about that.
Individuals or collectives.
But it isn't a matter of choosing one or the other.
No.
It's and as Buckminster Fuller says, and I'll say it again, unselfish thinking on the part of humans does absolutely affect human destiny. I think that's the core of what I wanted to get across from his writing here.
Oh, by the way, the Pope now,
and I think he's thinking unselfishly for the most part.
Right, he's doing a great job.
It's unusual for someone in such a
high
huge,
profile,
a powerful position.
Right.
Because usually once a person gets to that kind of power level, and here we get back to our original question: does it matter who gets elected? Sometimes someone slips through, and after 100 or so popes, you finally get one that still has their mind intact, and they are actually trying to refer to the best thinking in the Bible, you know, and he was obviously struck all his life by what he understood, you know, that the Bible meant to him, and what he, I mean, he's thinking, and he's trying to be unselfish about it. You know, even surrounded with such incredible wealth all around him and privilege, he's still able to gather his thoughts, which is amazing.
I want to read this. This just came in. It came in from ourvoices.net.
Do you want me to look at it?
Yeah, and this is just words, unfortunately, but at least it's a beginning. And I think this is because of the Pope. He actually sent that to us.
Barack Obama shifted the fight against climate change on Monday up a gear. He announced the United States will be massively reducing carbon emissions from power plants and supporting real meaningful shift.
Now listen to these words. He announced, it's a word, that we are going to be meaningful shifts by what year?
Wait a minute, I don't see the year.
Okay, go ahead.
I haven't got that. Them saying, you know, we have to get together and step
That's
up.
what the Pope said. We have to get together. He's repeating the Pope's message from his encyclical.
Quote, our world is a gift. We want 100%. See, that's Obama taking some
Part of the Pope's stuff.
From Rome to Paris. Oh, carrying a petition from Rome. So this is part of the Pope's language. Our world is a gift. We want 100% clean energy by 2050. That's a long way off.
long way off. That's
Too
35 years.
Too
And
long.
we'll never, ever
And
survive. I don't think we will
No,
survive.
that's much too long a range.
So we need to do that much sooner. But that's a word, you see.
These are just
it's meant
words.
to make you feel like they're doing something.
But
Like
you know,
our government
in
is
a way,
doing
that's
something.
counterproductive, because this is saying to the general population and saying that this is coming from Rome. And I don't believe it now that I see the date there. I don't think the Pope would condone this kind of delay. This is a delay tactic.
Right.
It's from some other group altogether. If they're talking about a date like that, you know, forget it. We're way too far into climate change now for, you know, to wait that long. I mean, I remember when they were saying 2020, you know, remember?
Right. Now
Oh
they're
my
putting it
gosh,
off
and
even
they
further.
keep putting it off another 20 years and another 20 years. This is just a delay tactic. So when you read things like this, you know that group is not serious. But of course, they're trying to say that they're aligned with Barack Obama and they're aligned with the Pope, and you know, this is lying.
We need
This is
to
a
get
sly
something done
use of-
immediately,
yeah.
and it can be done immediately. If there was an attack on this country by a different planet,
Yeah,
we would
everybody
figure
will
out
get
a way
together
to get
repel
together
it.
and stop it.
Right, right.
So it doesn't matter what the cost is.
And of course, we know how quickly we all got together to get, you know, people on the moon. And there was a race to do that, and all the technology came together, and all the money and everything, and it was done. You know, and that was done because there was a military purpose in the back of that.
Okay,
Whoever had the high ground, you know, and the high ground was space, they could see what everyone else was doing, and then they'd have a strategic advantage
I want to
militarily.
thank you, Dennis. Thank you,
Okay.
Dennis.
Well,
Thank you,
are we
Susan.
going out? Okay.
We're going out.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Jeff.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you all for
Neighbors out of
listening.
work because they closed the factory. You try to stretch your paycheck, but it's never quite enough. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake. Cars and farms and factories and trucks. Supplies go down and prices soar, our futures are at stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.
Okay, this is hour number 2, right?
We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even
wow.
trash converts to biofuels. Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone? Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy.